We spent hours on the couch watching the news just like you wanted, sharing all the stories about the times when you were young, and I would listen to every word, every time. I was always met with the biggest smile that could light up every single room. There is not a single person you could truly be compared to, and I'm just lucky I was loved by you. But I look for you in sunsets, 'cause I know that you'll paint the sky. And when I see them, I'll smile and say, hey, that's my favorite guy. And I just hope that heaven is everything you thought it'd be. I can't wait to see you next and say I've missed you just as much as you missed me. Never really thought about what life would look like if you really were to leave. Now my biggest goal is to make sure that I keep you proud of me. I'll try my best, I swear I will. But I'll look for you in sunsets, 'cause I know that you'll paint the sky. And when I see them, I'll smile and say, hey, that's my favorite guy. And I really hope that heaven is everything you thought it'd be. I can't wait to see you next and say I missed you just as much as you missed me.
If you're lucky, you meet one friend that makes you a better person, that makes you laugh till you pee, that mentors you and would do anything for you, and you for them. Someone so strong that they can laugh through pain. Gerry's passing has cut me and so many others right to the quick. He laughed harder and loved more than anyone that I ever knew. He loved to give it to me, and he loved it more when I ribbed him. He loved to spend time together, even when he wasn't well. I told the brothers last summer that I don't think there's a tougher man around. Despite huge suffering, he always gave 100% to make sure everyone was having a good time and not distracted by his illness. I miss you, Murphy. I love you, and life will definitely not be the same without you. Rest easy, brother.
This has been a very difficult week for our family, especially my sister Golda. But for me, it's been difficult losing a brother-in-law and a great friend. When I think about Gerry Murphy, I think about 24 hours. Back about 25 plus years ago, Golda and Gerry came to Fort McMurray for their first time. And I was about to meet this new guy for my first time. The 24 hours before meeting him, I knew I wasn't going to like him. Then within 24 hours of meeting him, I knew it was going to be extremely difficult not to like him and eventually love him. Gerry loved life, he loved Golda, and he loved our complete Enstridge family. And I assure you, there's some of us that's probably a little hard to take to. We would razz Gerry about being so particular, so careful, everything in its place. He would have screwdrivers all lined up. He didn't really know how to use a lot of it, but he had lots of it. But he would just smile and shake his head and laugh and walk away. Even when things were difficult for him, he somehow found a way to laugh and make light of the situation. The last laugh I got from Gerry a few days before he passed was a text with a meme. And in it said, I sold my one homing pigeon 22 times on Amazon. I thought about it for a second and I said, yeah, that's Gerry's humor. Gerry, you will always be missed. The world is a much better place for having you being in it. Rest in peace, my friend. Love you. We're doing a cheers for Gerry Murphy, a good brother-in-law, a good friend, and of the crowd that's here. Love you, buddy. Rest in peace.
Cheers, Gerry Murphy.
Well, this is one of the hardest things I've had to do. So many stories that come to mind about our brother Gerry. I think of a speed bag that he so graciously gave me, and I put it up in the garage, punched that thing for 2 months, only to find out a little while later that he found it at the dump. So needless to say, I threw it back at the dump. I think of a time in Gerry's garage where the ambulance had to be called for him because he just had way too much cannabis, and we had to bring him back to life. I think of the tools I borrowed from him, and he would write them on a whiteboard in his garage to let him know who borrowed it, what was borrowed, when it was borrowed, how it was borrowed, and why it was borrowed, with a QR code. I think of when I first introduced my friend Caber to him. Can't remember exactly where or what place it was, but introduced Caber to him, and not 2 minutes later, I talked to him about this ambitious thing that I wanted to do at the house. And him, Gerry, only knowing Caber for less than a minute probably, nonchalantly looked over at him and said, "It'll never be done." And he was right. It was never done. He knew me well. But I also think of him when I wasn't looking for a shoulder to lean on, but he was there anyway, knowing I really did. I think of laughter. I think of a whole lot of harassing back and forth, sometimes to the point where the girls would think it was over the line a bit. But he knew it wasn't. It was love, brotherly love, and he treasured that. First thing I would say to Gerry when I'd talk to him on the phone over the last few years is, "I'm worried sick about you." Well, Gerry, I'm not worried sick anymore. It's so freaking sad that you're not here with us. But I know your spirit, as your granddaughter so eloquently sung, is in the sky, pain-free, peaceful, and smiling. Gerry, love you, brother. The room is, and always will be, yours.
Gerry and I have had the unique experience of being brothers-in-laws, colleagues, and even best friends. When I began working with him at Father Mercury, we realized we also loved to laugh and practical jokes. I was hesitant to share this story, but whenever we'd get together, Gerry would ask me to retell it. He called it the sting. And somehow I knew he'd want me to tell it here one more time. Now, some of these illustrations are a little bit off, but you'll get the gist. I don't tell this story because it was an excellent practical joke, which it was. I tell it because it illustrates some of Gerry's best characteristics: his devotion to family, his sense of humor, his quirkiness, kindness, and most of all, loyalty. Hope you enjoy it. It was June, and graduation festivities were filling the air. Gerry and I love to take part in the events for the students to usher them into the next phase of their lives. It's a bustling time for students and teachers alike. One tradition we did have was for the staff to have a blowout party the night before the main graduation ceremony. We all look forward to blowing off steam after a long year of educating minds. When the party was just getting started, I thought Gerry decided to pay an Irish goodbye and left the party early. He'd come to regret this decision. Needless to say, the following morning was rough. Both myself and our other friend Daryl Bradley woke up with a huge headache and evil intentions. We'd planned revenge on Gerry for leaving the party early, but first, we'd have to get over to Gerry's to start the plan. When he asked what happened to us last night, the hook was set. Our fictitious story was that we had gone downtown after he left, and while defending some students from our school, we got into a tilly with some kids from another school. We ended up getting arrested and thrown in the drunk tank. Gerry fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And he immediately went into protect Monty mode. His advice was simply, keep your mouth shut, this will all blow over. But of course, if I was going to do a good practical joke, I could not let that happen. I filled in everyone, including Gerry's wife Golda, school staff, students, even his neighbors about this prank. And guess what? They all agreed to help. Oh, the following week was stressful for poor Murphy, to say the least. He had to protect me, and the only way to do it was to keep the secret from everyone. Of course, they all knew the truth. Golda grilled him, students asked questions, neighbors threatened to remove their kids from the school, and the entire school community were in full revolt over these rogue teachers who should not be teaching at the Catholic school. Gerry lied, cajoled, and defended me with every ounce of his being. It was a long week for poor old Murph. Finally, I employed the help of two friends in blue to help me with the final chapter. This was going to be perfect. Well, the appointed day came, and Gerry was concerned to see two police officers approaching the school. Tensions were high. They came into his office and explained that parents had complained and wanted me arrested for assault, which is exactly what they planned to do today. Gerry tried to explain what a wonderful person I was. He railroaded Bradley and even suggested that my brothers might be more capable of assault, but definitely not Monty. Even George, our principal, provided very little help. Poor Gerry was on his own. I was eventually called down to Gerry's office, where I feigned surprise. George gave me no assurance about my future employment, and Gerry was absolutely spinning. As I was escorted out in handcuffs, I turned back and told Gerry, "You said if I kept my mouth shut, it'd be okay." Poor Gerry's heart was breaking for me. After letting him stew for a few minutes, we all returned to fill him in on the joke. As usual, Gerry was as happy as any of us and thrilled at the extents we went to get him. That's what made him so special. He knew a laugh was a laugh. And as long as it came from a good place, he was always happy to laugh at himself.
Gerry was a great friend, confidant, and colleague. We have so many great memories of Gerry. His warm smile and his great hugs. When he would take time to listen, guide, and mentor those who needed him. Gerry was my go-to guy at Father Merck when it came to supporting me and my students. Andy had memories of Gerry as a great friend, someone he could laugh with, go to the Black Horse pub with, and also join and win sometimes football pools. We will miss him greatly. He is one of a kind. We love you, Gerry. May your soul be at peace.
Gerry to me was like he was to so many, a very giving and compassionate individual. I met Gerry back in the early 90s when I was in the 6th grade. To say he was a role model to so many of us would be an understatement. The way Gerry always carried himself and gave unconditionally was unlike any other. I recall when I was a young badminton player back during those years, he was more beyond just being my counselor. He was also somewhat of a coach as well. One thing he helped me perfect was my drop shot in badminton, and although I wasn't perfect at it at first, he certainly stayed and helped and coached me until I got it, always encouraging me to just give it one more go. Eventually, I got to a level where I was able to actually win a city school championship and move on to compete in the provincials. There isn't enough I can say about Gerry's kindness and contributions, as he was a beautiful human being. I'm very sad that he's gone, that he's no longer with us, but I like to remember how he was always there for us as kids, there for me. And my heart goes out to Gerry and his entire family. I thank you for all those years as a mentor, as a role model. I love you, and I'll never forget you. Rest easy, old friend.
So hey guys, this is Corey Coffey here. When I was a kid, Gerry was our guidance counselor in school, and I never called him Gerry. His name to me was always Mr. Murphy, right? I always remember his smile, his laugh, and his deep voice. There's many summers where he would go home to Newfoundland. I lived on Ermine, he lived on Wolverine, so I would actually mow his lawn throughout the summer. He'd come back from summer holidays, and we discuss how much lawn mowing I actually did and what quality work I did versus what I was going to get paid. And that was always a heckle moment. But he was such a great guy. When I was in St. Gabe's and then over to Father Merck, but mainly in St. Gabriel's, I was going through a lot of stuff in my own personal life. I was probably 14 or 15, a lot of stuff going on at home, a lot of stuff going on at school, the typical bully nonsense. And he was always there. He was, I'd go into his office and I'd sit down with him and I'd spend hours with him. And we'd be chatting. We'd be chatting about fishing. We'd be chatting about hunting, chatting about Newfoundland and where we're going for holidays. I don't honestly remember talking about so much what was going on. It was just more talking about, what our goals were. And then actually when he came over to Father Merck after I was there, he helped me with the career development. So, we sat down and talked about what our career paths were. And I was never, a candidate for going into university or college. It just wasn't something I was even interested in. And, with his conversations, he helped me push me to the trades and kind of ended up where we are today. So, he's such a great man. My dad and I were actually chatting with him about 3-4 months ago and talking about people who made big influences in our lives when we were younger. And Mr. Murphy was definitely one of them by far. Such great people, we're blessed to have in our lives. And it's sad that he's moved on, but I'm sure he's going to be an angel over watching all of us. Take care.
I met Mr. Murphy in high school. It was the beginning of high school, and I had been going through a lot of things. I experienced a very traumatic event that I was really ashamed of, and I never talked to anyone about it. So I started doing things like I started smoking weed, I was drinking a bunch, I was skipping school, and traditionally I'd always been a great student. I was on honor roll, So he saw me in the hallway one day and he was like, "Hey, Kim, come talk to me. Like, we got to talk." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And I just left him off. And then and I was like, "Okay, whatever." He's like, "Actually, you don't like math. Come see me during math class." Like, he had remembered that. And so I was like, "Okay, fine." So that speaks, I guess, to his strategic intelligence. I would do anything to get out of math class. So when I went into his office, he was just like, "Hey, I've noticed these things." And he started speaking about academics and asking me what my goals were. And then he said to me, after chatting for a bit, he said, "Kim, I just want to let you know that oftentimes, in my experience, people who have these outgoing, kind, friendly, happy, shiny exteriors who, include other people and try to make other people, feel seen and heard. People like that have often kind of gone through some stuff, and oftentimes they are so kind and reach out to people because they don't want anybody else to feel like they felt. So they don't want anyone else to feel bad or to feel pain. And so it's like another reason sometimes that, they are like that is because they don't want to burden anyone. I need you to know that everybody deserves to be taken care of, and everybody deserves to be heard. And so if you're holding on to something that you need to express or you think it would be good to let out, it would absolutely not burden me in any way to listen and to be here. So that conversation and him saying that I wasn't a burden to him was so huge for me. He said, when you share pain, the pain is divided. Other people can help you carry it. And so even if you're not ready today, someday when you're ready, I'll be here and you can talk about anything. That was such an important thing for me to hear. I was like a 15-year-old kid, and I had experienced all these things that 15-year-old kids shouldn't. And I was struggling really hard. And so I started crying. He said to me, one of the things that I think is important is maybe we make a referral to mental health. And at the time, he didn't really know that my mom was there. And so I told him, I'm not going there. I don't want to tell them. And he said, okay, let's make a deal. If you check in with me for the next week every day and we talk, I won't talk to your parents. But if you miss a day, if you don't come to school, then I'm going to make sure that your parents know, that you're going through a bunch of stuff and that you might need some extra support. He kept all of my secrets, and they weren't secrets. He kept me safe. That's the thing. But I'll never forget how much he respected me. And it just speaks to how you never really know the impact you make on others. Because now I look at my life and I'm just I'm a counselor. This is what I do for a living. And up until really the last few days, I didn't really think specifically about how much those meetings I had and the time that I spent in his office helps me get here. And my life is so full. And I get the honor of sitting with people in their pain and walking alongside them and showing them that they can do it and believing in them like he believed in me. And what a gift. What a gift he gave me. Thanks for listening.
I really struggled to figure a story out for Gerry because there's so many of them made me laugh and then kind of made me cry. But I'll tell you two quick ones. One time Gerry came over when I was barbecuing out on the deck, and he's kind of watching me when I opened the barbecue, and he goes, "Mikey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm opening the barbecue." He goes, "Why are you using the handle? Why are you using vice grips?" I said, "Well, anyway, the handle's broke." He goes, "Okay, after we're done, we're going to the dump. We're going dump picking. We're looking for a handle." I said, "Okay." So we drive to the dump, and he knows exactly where to go. It's like he had a map of the place in his head, but I'm sure he's been there 100 times. So he actually goes in. We get the handle, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to look around over here." And all of a sudden, I hear a voice. It's like, "Hey, you guys, what are you doing over there?" And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? Who's hollering at us? Well, the guy working at the dump goes, "You can't come here shopping. You can't be dump pickers. Get out of here." And I'm like, good God, here I am working for the Catholic school district. I'm going to get kicked out of the dump. Anyway, that was my experience with Gerry going to the dump. I'll tell you, I was not just embarrassed, but I thought, I've never been kicked out of a dump before. How low does life get when you get kicked out of a dump? And then the next one, I'll keep it short. Golda never really asked me for a whole lot when we lived in Fort McMurray, but she did call me on a Sunday morning, and she said, "Mike, Gerry didn't come home last night. Do you know where he's at? Can you find him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Golda, I'll go see if I can find him. And I think I know where he's at." So I jumped in the car and I drove over to Phil McKay's. And some of you might remember Phil. He used to have some amazing pig roasts and crazy parties and stuff. So anyway, I walk in. Phil and Jane are there, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm looking for Gerry. Is Gerry around?" "Yeah, he's downstairs, I think, sleeping on the couch." So I go downstairs, and Gerry's rolled over. He's got his back to me, and I wake him up, and he rolls over. I said, "Holy God, Gerry, what happened to your face?" He goes, "Oh, you're funny. I was born like this. What happened to your face?" I said, "No, man, you got to go look in the mirror. You're a mess." So he goes looking in the mirror, and he comes out. He goes, "Holy Who did Crystal? And the girls must have done this. He had giant penises drawn all over his face. So he's in there about 5 minutes trying to scrub it off. And he's like, it won't come off. It won't come off. I said, listen, let's go. We got to go. Golda's worried about you. I'm just going to take you home. So I took him home and I, let that go. I'm not sure what happened. If Golda, kind of tore a strip off him or whatever the case might be. Anyway, it's halfway through the day on Monday and I thought I better go see how Gerry's doing. So I walk in his office and I'm looking at him and his face looks a little bit different. I'm like, Gerry, what's with your face? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, it's kind of brown and patchy and spots. He goes, oh, I'm wearing concealer because I couldn't get all the permanent marker off my face. So if you take the concealer off, you can still see the penises that the girls drew on my face. So anyway, that's just some of the stuff Gerry used to get us into and what he got himself into. So I'm going to miss you, buddy. And, I know you're watching us and you're still probably laughing at some of the stupid stuff we're doing. All right. Love you, man. Bye.
I have a little poem here that I wrote for my good friend Gerry. It's called For Gerry. I will remember you in the brightness of the sky, upon the rocks and on the sea, in the lonely seabird's cry. I will remember you when I laugh until it hurts, in every wink and every smile and every little curse. I will remember you as the stars begin to glow, and in the whispers of the wind wherever I may go. I will remember you when I see children smile, and in every stranger's kindness I'll think of you a while. I will remember you until we meet again, and I can say a warm hello to a dear and loving friend. I will remember you.
High above the chimney top, that's where